You've written thousands of words and it feels like your story hasn't taken off yet. Your book feels like this unbeatable dragon, and this is a really frustrating place to be, and it makes a lot of writers quit. But there is a fix for this. So today we'll be diagnosing this problem, how to fix it, and stick around to the end to see how you can actually slay this dragon of writing your first book or your next book. So why does your story feel like nothing is happening? Do you not have enough conflict? Do you not have enough plot ideas? Is there not enough going on in your story? No, that isn't the problem. The reason why it feels like your story hasn't made progress is because your character hasn't made progress. It's because your character doesn't have a goal. Goals are what push your characters forward, and it's what gives their action meaning. Your character's actions should be what is progressing the story forward, not your plot, not your bad guys, your character's choices. This is why I talk about agency often on this channel, but today we're going to be digging into that deeper. The thing about agency is agency is your character's ability to take direct action, make meaningful choices, and directly influence the plot. That sounds simple, right? Your character just needs to act. Problem solved. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. You might be thinking, duh, but what do I do with agency? How do I actually make it work? Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into character agency and why it matters. So we've established that agency is your character's ability to directly impact the story, but agency can show itself in a variety of ways because your character will be facing a variety of different challenges. So let's break these down into 3 different sections. First is external. So your character is going to be facing external challenges. Maybe they need to learn a magic system. Maybe they need to learn a new skill set. Perhaps they're going to be going through an apprentice arc. Maybe your character is trying to throw away an evil piece of jewelry into a fiery volcano. This physical external aspect can be defined as your story's overall plot. What is the big thing standing in your character's way? What do they need to overcome? What evil must they defeat? What obstacle is in their path? And this external conflict is a major antagonist, not to your character, but to your character's reactivity. See, it's easy to put your character in a situation where if they don't take action, they will die. If they don't beat the thing in front of them, it will kill them. It's easy to put your characters in situations that forces them to take action. It's easy, and it's often boring. Often these kinds of circumstances lead your character to be reactive instead of proactive. This will be the biggest hurdle in your character's agency that you as the author will overcome. But first, before I go into the solution, let's talk about these 2 other sections. Internal. Your plot isn't the only thing that's going to be challenging your characters. Good characters don't just deal with an external problem. They must grow internally in order to succeed. So what does this look like? Say your character has to destroy an evil piece of jewelry. Great, you can throw a lot of things into his path to trip him up. But why would he want to overcome these things in the first place? See, you need to ask yourself, why is your character willing to deal with all the stuff you're going to throw at them? What do they have to gain? This isn't a question your character necessarily needs to have answered, but you, as the author, definitely need to know the answer to this question. So, why does Frodo want to get rid of this evil piece of jewelry? Well, he loves his home, his friends. The Shire is something he treasures, and the ring's existence is threatening it. But there's something more than that. Those are external reasons for Frodo wanting to go on this quest. But what about the internal ones? Well, Frodo grew up with Bilbo. Frodo grew up hearing Bilbo's stories of adventure, and he regretted not going with Bilbo when he went to Rivendell. And Frodo's wanderlust simply grew and grew over time. So when his home is threatened, he finally follows this internal yearning to leave the Shire. Ultimately, this feeling stays with him, and he ends up not only leaving the Shire, but leaving Middle Earth for good. Throughout the story, your character is going to be going through a journey. They'll learn, they'll be challenged, they'll grow, ideally. In this video up here, I dig more into your character's want and need, so I'm going to be brief in this video today. But your character's need is who they must become by the end of the story in order to fulfill the story, which is often an internal change, not just an external change. It's accepting who they must become in order to finish the story in a satisfying manner. So in order for this change to matter, you need to know who your character is at the beginning of the story, and then start planting seeds into the character they will become by the end. Give them challenges in the beginning that mirror the ones at the end. Where they fail at the beginning, they will succeed later. So why does this matter? Well, compelling characters go through an internal arc as much as they go through an external arc. Often the major plot points in your story are going to coincide with your character's growth arc, and these plot points are going to be happening at the same time. The main external conflict and the main internal conflict unified to showcase your character's growth and change throughout the story, which is why I plot both of these things at the same time. Now, there's one more element that impacts your character's growth and their goals, and that's relationships. As your main character grows and changes, so should their relationship dynamics. I mean, think about it. Have you ever been gone for a prolonged amount of time or learned something new and then come back to the people you're around all the time? Spending time on my own at college, moving away after getting married, I experience life in a different way. I learn new things, so much so that whenever I was reunited with family after a long period, there were differences in how I interacted with them. Your experiences will change you, and a new you is going to change your relationships. So, as your characters are going through their growth arc, as they're changing, as they're learning, as they're evolving, good relationships that they once had may start to strain. New relationships may be formed. Old bad relationships might get dropped. And remember, this isn't just happening to your main character. Any prominent character in your story will most likely be going through a growth arc of their own and a change of their own, which is only going to make your social dynamics that much more complicated as the story progresses. Your character will be going through an external change as well as an internal change, as well as a relationship change if they have a goal and if they have agency. So, how do we fix the problem of your protagonist not having a goal to begin with? How can we make sure that your stories are meaningful, your characters have agency, and that your readers will love them? Well, step one is to acknowledge that you are not a bad writer. You are not a bad writer. You haven't failed your character, you just haven't given them permission to go after their goals. Don't be afraid to let your characters go do whatever. Don't be afraid to let your characters try and fail. I know as new writers, sometimes we don't want the precious children that we spent so much time writing and developing to fail and be sad or whatever. You're trying to represent life through art. You gotta give your characters challenges. Step number 2 is give your character a goal. Whatever that goal may be, your main character should be the one that's pushing the story's conflict forward and leading the charge throughout the story's progression. That way, it feels like your character is in control instead of someone's pulling their strings like a puppet in the background. Readers and viewers can tell when the hand of the author is too heavy and it feels like characters are doing things that they wouldn't characteristically do. Frodo's goal is to destroy the One Ring. Cinder's goal is to stop Lavanna. Harry's goal is to protect his family and his new home. So give your character a goal and remember that that goal is going to push them forward. However, that does not mean that their goal and their desire has to be good for them. Zuko's goal is to be accepted by his father. And he succeeds, and he's miserable, and he learns that he didn't need to be accepted by his father. He needed to accept himself and go train the Avatar to completely switch sides. So just because you give your character a goal and that goal pushes them forward in the story, that doesn't mean their goal is actually good for them. And that doesn't mean they necessarily need to achieve that goal, or if they do achieve that goal, that it doesn't need to be a good thing. Step 3 is give your characters a need. Who must they become by the end of the story? If you have that and you have a goal, you can work backwards from there. Like Zuko, these things can be in contrast. Goal is to be accepted by father. Need is to accept self and not care about father. But like Harry, these goals can complement. Harry wants to protect his found family and new home. Harry needs to become a hero in order to protect his found family and new home. Step number 4 is write these things down and keep them handy. This is going to be your character's blueprint. If you ever get stuck, look back at it. If you don't know what to do, look at their goal and ask yourself, what can I, as the author, put in their way to make them going after their goal harder? How can I make this more difficult for them? Look at their character's need and ask, what challenge do I need to put in front of them? What decision do I need them to make right now that will strike this struggle between who they were and who they need to become? How can I challenge them to act like who they will be at the end of the story? The final tip is to not get bogged down by all of this. While you're in the writing process, these things, these elements can change, and that's okay. You don't need to stifle it just because you perfectly outline everything. It's a part of the creative process. And as you keep writing, as you keep creating, the more stories that you write, the more intuitive all of this is going to become, and the less you'll have to be so focused on it. And if you're still feeling stuck in a rut, sometimes writer's block just bogs you down. You don't know what to do. You can't create anymore. Check out this video right here.